Hello everyone and welcome to Craft Cut Magic. Today what we're going to be doing is we are going to be creating a fun patriotic sign that can go up on your wall as a decoration inside of your house. Now, if you've kind of been following along with the channel, last time we created a wonderful 4th of July banner, and a little bit further back we created a fun summer sign as well. So kind of like with that summer sign, this is just going to be something that you can hang up on your wall. You could laminate it to make it last longer, but today it's just going to be a little bit more of a simple project. However, we are going to be doing some new things with the Cricut, so let's jump right into it. All right, so starting off, let's go over some of the supplies that you're probably going to want nearby for this project. So first of all, we are going to probably want some cardstock paper because cardstock, I feel like, is definitely one of the best materials to use for making projects with the Cricut. It's just sturdier than regular printer paper, so I like it best. So make sure that you have a couple of colors that you might want to use for this project nearby. You're also going to want your light grip mat, so that you can cut out all of your different papers. You're probably going to want a pair of scissors of some kind nearby, whether they be a larger pair or a smaller pair, just in case you need it. You're also probably going to want some form of a weeder tool just to make your life a little bit easier, taking things off of the mat and weeding out any small parts of your project that might stick together. And you're probably also going to want a scraper squeegee tool of some kind to also help you with getting some of the excess materials off of your mat. Now, another supply that you're probably going to want is glue or maybe double-sided tape, something that's going to help you to keep these pieces of paper stuck together as we create our project. All right, now with all of those supplies taken care of, let's switch over to the computer. And now that we have switched over to our computer and pulled up the Design Space app, we're just going to come over here and we're going to select New Project. And from there, we're going to pull up this untitled project, Blank Canvas. And so from here, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be coming over and directly selecting on the text feature today. And so if you've been following along with some of the other projects that we've been creating recently, you know that last time we created a 4th of July banner, and so we were required to go into shapes and images in order to find what we were looking for. Today's project is going to pretty much just all be text-based. Nothing should probably come from images, but we'll kind of see how the project progresses. For now, we're just going to select on text and go from there. And now that we have our text pulled up, we're just going to type in what we want for this sign. So I'm going to be typing in 1776 because this is supposed to be kind of a more 4th of July based craft. And so I'm going to enlarge the font just so it's going to be easier for me to work with and see for this project. It will probably get bigger, smaller later on. Now, this is actually kind of a cool font right here. I'm kind of liking it, however, it's not really fitting the style that I want for this in particular. I might just make a note of this and come back to this font at a later time, maybe for when we put EST dot for this sign. However, for now, I'm still looking for something a little more old school for my text, so we're just going to keep searching. And so currently I'm really kind of liking this parchment text right here. It looks very calligraphy, very old school, old-fashioned Declaration of Independence kind of font. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to come out of this, and I'm not quite liking everything about the way this font is set up. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to start playing around with this text. And what I mean by that is we're going to come over here and we're going to ungroup all of these numbers, because I want to see if making some of these numbers a little bit different is going to look better with this text. So I'm going to start shifting things around a tad, and you'll notice things are changing. I'm going to actually unlock proportions a little bit, see if I might be able to, looks like I might not be able to change the thickness. Okay, so I'm starting to like the way the one looks. I'm not too sure I like how these 2 7s are, so I'm going to kind of turn them, see if I can make them look a little more in line with each other. I might not like those 7s. Yeah, I'm not really liking how those 7s are in this font, so we're going to go and we're going to find another one. And that's the nice thing, is that you're just going to need to play around with stuff until you find what you like and things start to look the way that you hope. So let's keep looking for a different font and see if we can find one that's a little bit better. Alright, so I went ahead and I undid some of my actions until I got all of my numbers back into the same text block again, and you can see that up here in layers. It is one entity again. I came back over to fonts, I kept searching, and I found this Old English text font. Now you might see that this one is rather similar to the way that the old one looked, however this one has less harsh lines to it, so I think we're going to like this one a little bit. Now be sure to always keep in mind that text, fonts, images, every kind of project that you create, that's always something that you get to decide for yourself. So if you liked that other kind of text better, you could definitely go with that for your own projects and stuff. I personally am liking this font a whole lot better, so this is what I'm going to be going with. However, everything is always up to your discretion when you make your own projects inside of Design Space. Now, unlike with the last font where I ungrouped all of the numbering and we started playing around with it to adjust sizing and rotation and everything like that, we don't need to do that for this font necessarily. I'm liking how it's laid out. However, I'm not too happy with how they are spaced. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to try out letter space. Okay, I'm liking how close all of the numbers are right here. And so from here now we can move on with our project to getting the EST and the dot in our fonts and text for our project. And so in order to do this, we're just going to come over here to this left-hand side once again. We're going to select text, and you're going to see that the text now shows up in that Old English text font. So now we're just going to type in EST and period. And now I'm liking the way that the font is for this. So what's great is that they're both going to be compatible together. Alright, so I'm happy with how this is all laid out now for our sign. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click and drag so that everything is selected together. Now from here we're going to want to come up here to the top and we're going to offset our text. And what this is going to do is it's going to give us the back for our sign. And so that will make it so everything will be able to lay down flat onto one solid surface that we can glue our pieces to. So let me show you how that works. So as you can see now that this has loaded in, we have the distance, and right now it is coming in at 1/4 of an inch. And that's giving us these results. So I'm going to play around with this for a second, and then what you're going to do is when you're happy with the offset outline that it has created, you're going to hit apply, and that's going to create a second layer over here. And from there, I will show you what we can do. Perfect, and as you can see, we now have that offset layer over here. And now there are a couple things that we're going to want to do. First off, I'm going to change this offset layer to a different color, just so that hopefully it will be easier to look at and see what we're working with. And now the second thing that we're going to do is we are going to contour. And this is something that's completely up to you. If you like kind of the little cutouts for your sign, you can definitely go ahead and leave them in. I am going to at least contour out this little hole in the middle of the 6, and from there I'll see about this as well, because I have a feeling if I take out more it's going to look weird, but we're just going to play around with it a little bit. Cricut is all about kind of playing around with your projects to see what works best, so we're going to play around with it and see what works. And so contour is this feature right down here in the right corner. We're just going to hit it, and you're going to see that there are only a few pieces that we can get rid of. So we're just going to click on that one piece for the 6 and the one piece that's in between the 1 and the 7. We're going to see how this looks now. It looks pretty good. However, I am going to come back in here and I'm going to put that one piece back so that I can see how it looks overall. Alright, so after a little bit of a debate with myself, I have decided to go with the version of this sign where the piece in between the 1 and the 7 is filled in with the contour, so it will not be cutting out. I just like kind of the sleeker design look here, and so I'm going to be going with that. Again, with every project, you are ultimately the final say in how your project looks. So if you liked something different, please always go with what you like best. I'm liking this, so this is what we're going to be using on here. Okay, so moving forward now, I'm just going to start changing some of the colors so I have a better idea of what this is going to look like when it cuts. We're going to save the project, and then we're going to get into actually making this little fun sign. And so first, for changing the color, I'm going to come over here to the 1776, and we're going to change this to be in a nice bold red color. And then I'm going to click on the other form of text, and I think I would like this in white because the blue that this is going to be against is different. So I'm going to offset, well, come over to the offset layer, and we're going to change the color to something a little more similar to what we have on the page. And this is actually a bit closer, I would say, to what we have. So I'm liking the way that it looks. So now we're going to go ahead and save this project. And now I'm going to start saving it, and we're going to give it a name, and I'm just going to title this 1776. We're going to save this project. Now, before we get into cutting this, I just want to let you know that I know this seems like a very simple thing to be made and cut out. It might not necessarily be your cup of tea, but when you're just starting out with the Cricut, and even when you're an expert at using your Cricut, you're going to find that sometimes going more elaborate with your projects and going so complex, you might find that you are wearing yourself thin and you're creating a lot of complex problems for yourself. Sometimes the best projects that you can ever make with your Cricut are going to be the ones that seem the most basic and the most simplistic. So it may not seem like much, but I promise you, sometimes these kinds of projects can last a lot longer than those complex, crazy kinds of projects that you could make. And believe me, I've done the most complex kinds of projects to where I've been cutting little tiny things, getting frustrated with ideas that never came to fruition because I was trying to go too big too fast. And so we will get to more complex projects, but if you ever find that you're starting to run yourself ragged, you're getting frustrated, come back to a more simplistic kind of project like this. Make it your own. Really enjoy the process, and I promise it will help you to get over those hurdles where you get super frustrated with not knowing how to make a project, or just being frustrated with the entirety of trying to do something too complex or something that's just not working out right. These simple projects can do wonders. So always keep in mind that it may be simple, but it is definitely a mighty little project. Now, with that being said, let's move on to making our project. So from here, be sure that you go ahead and you turn on the Bluetooth for your computer and go ahead and get your Cricut Machine open and turned on. And from there, we're going to start to make. All right, hopefully you have gotten your Bluetooth for your computer turned on and you have gotten your Cricut Machine opened up and ready to go. Be sure that you have all of your supplies sort of nearby for when we start this. And if you need more time, definitely just go ahead and pause the video. But if you are ready to continue on, go ahead and come up to this green Make button. And as with most of the projects that we do, you are going to put it for on mat, and it is going to be a 12 by 12 inch mat. Go ahead and keep that, and you're just going to hit confirm over here in the corner to continue onward. All right, and as you can see now, all of our mats have showed up, and you can see all of the different kinds of text that are going to appear on each color. Now, if you wanted to at this point, you could change the material size to a letter sheet of paper if you would like, if that's the kind of cardstock size that you are using. Mine is letter sized, which is 8.5 by 11 inches, and that is what I'm going to be using. However, because these are going to be such small cuts to make, I'm not going to change the material size for any of the mats on this project in particular. But go ahead and always keep it in mind that it is an option if you would like to see how it will cut out on your materials. And once you are happy with that, go ahead and come down here and click on the green Continue button. Perfect, and now that we have connected our computer to our machine, we can go and set our base material, which for me is just going to be this bookmarked light cardstock material. And now what we're going to do is we are going to start to switch back over to the regular camera, and from there I'm going to show you how we're going to load our tools and materials in order to cut out all of our pieces of paper for this project. All right, and now that we have switched back over to our camera, what we're going to do is first off, we're going to move some of our tools out of the way. Make sure that your Cricut Maker is far enough away from anything that might be behind it, whether that be a wall or any kind of object, anything that could get hit with your mat. Just be sure that it is out of the way, especially before you start cutting. I am going to push back my Cricut Maker here for a minute because I do need to pull over the light grip mat so that we can go ahead and start to put our materials on it. So be sure that you pull off that protective film covering that protects the stickiness of your mat. And from here, go ahead and grab your materials. Now, as you can see, 2 of these pieces of paper have been used before. The blue has not. However, the red and the white have been. And I'm just going to reuse this material, especially since the cut is so small for this project. And that's going to be a good thing because we didn't necessarily want to overwhelm ourselves with sizing for this project. Now, always keep in mind that the size of your project is something that you can change on your machine and through Cricut Design Space. So if you wanted to make a sign bigger or smaller than what it is, you could always go back and you could cancel the cut. And what you could do from there is you could go ahead and make this sign bigger or smaller if you would want than what you originally had on your canvas before we started this. And so actually over off on the side, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make mine a little bit bigger, not by too much. I don't want to go too crazy, but I am going to make it so it will fit. The biggest cut that we're going to be making is going to be the blue for the back of this sign. And so what I did is I just came onto my computer and I made it so that it will fit onto this measurement, which is the 8.5. And you'll know that with Cricut, there's always a 1/4 inch allowance on each side so that hopefully the machine does not cut into your mat. So when you have 8.5 inches as a measurement, you only have 8 inches actually to work with because it takes a 1/4 inch off of one side and a 1/4 inch off of the other. So mine is within that range. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put this blue cardstock on my mat. Be sure that you line it up in the left-hand corner. Stick it down. And I've just kind of decided that this is going to be my first cut. Now, for everyone at home using your Cricut machine, don't feel like you have to follow the order of the paper that I'm going in. If your machine says to load in, say, the white material first, go ahead and put that color down instead. Don't feel like you have to follow me step by step directly. Just follow what your computer or your phone or your tablet says, wherever you have design space, follow what it says in terms of which color to put down on your mat first, just so that it saves you a little bit of hassle on the computer screen. So I have gone ahead and I made sure that I went back in, I clicked make on my computer, got everything reset up, and then what I had to do in particular is I had to make sure that my blue mat was the one that is selected for my first cut. And so that's why I say follow what Cricut Design Space says on yours, so you don't have to try to figure that out on your end. But now that I have that all set up and ready to go, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll this up towards the rollers in between the guides. I'm going to pull out my machine, and then from here we're going to once again make sure that we are within the guides, and I am not, so give me just 1 second. Okay, now I'm within all of the guides on the machine, and I'm just going to hit on the flashing load and unload button, which is just right here next to and underneath the blue power button. So now the mat has been measured, and now we are all set to cut this material. And so we're going to hit on the flashing go button right here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you watch through a time lapse, and we're just going to cut out all of these pieces of paper in one go. So what's going to happen is that this is going to cut out. You're going to change the material on your mat, as you will see, and you will continue to hit on your material settings on your computer, hit the load unload button, and then always hit the flashing go button. So enjoy. And so as you can see, what I have been doing is I have been folding my mat backward because the mat is much more resilient than the paper is. Just taking off every piece of paper, we're going to keep that mat rounded, and we're just going to gently peel off our pieces. And if you're using a new mat, hopefully the stickiness won't be a problem for you. If you are using a new fresh out of the box light grip mat, I always recommend that you try to at least tame down its stickiness a little bit first before you start working with your materials, especially when they're cardstock and paper, just because they can rip and tear quite easily. So now that we have all of our pieces cut out, we're just going to put that protective cover back onto our light grip mat. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to close up our machine. And on your device that you used for this, you're going to want to hit the green I'm done button now that you have all of your pieces for this cut out. And from there, you could go ahead and you can just double check and make sure that your project is saved. And if it is, you can just go ahead and close your device or go out of design space. I'm starting to close up my Cricut right here. Make sure that you do power off your machine as well, so that you aren't wasting power or anything like that. Clean up your scraps, throw them away. And now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up our project. So as you can see, I've actually been laying out all of my pieces while the materials were cutting. So I kind of have an idea of where everything is supposed to go, more or less. This part's going to be a little bit more intense. I think I am going to pull over a template for this. And so if you've kind of been following along with my videos, you know when I say that I have a template, I just bring this scrap piece of paper over that I used, and I'm going to cut out the text part that is attached here, and these are going to become our template pieces to stick down our text onto our final project. So just grab some scissors and just start cutting it out. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just as long as it functions for this. So now I have that ready to go as well. So I'm just going to grab my glue stick and we are going to start to get this all stuck down. All right, and now we have completed gluing down our sign. Just a cute little thing for the 4th of July. Now, something you might have noticed is that I went ahead and I cut out my template piece a little bit closer to the lines that I needed. And that is because I've had situations in the past where I've tried to use this method and I end up completely kind of botching the alignment around it. So that's why I went ahead and I cut down this template piece a little bit closer just so that I could get a better feel for how it would look placed down on the actual final piece. So now I'm just going to go ahead and toss those, and there we go. We have this fun little 1776 sign for the 4th of July. And what's great is from here, what you can do is you could always just take some tape that you have nearby. And well, first off, what you could do is if you wanted to keep this for a long period of time, and this isn't just something you wanted to make for the year necessarily, what you could do is you could go ahead and you could laminate this, make it really nice and pretty. However, if this is just kind of a one and done year kind of project, you could just go ahead and grab some tape and you can go ahead and stick it on here, and then you can hang it up on a wall. And let me just kind of show you what that will look like. So I put a couple of pieces of tape on the back and then I just stuck it up here on this wall. And it looks really, really good. It's not going to stay here, obviously. I'm going to put it somewhere else around my house. However, I think that it turned out quite wonderful. Thank you so much for coming with me today to make this fun little 4th of July craft. And I hope to see you in the next episode. Thanks so much.